All right. I'm going to be really quick. Everyone remembers Owen from last year who was here from Kids Cancer Project. So our reference was we started our charity position last year in terms of supporting the community around us and wanting to help. We had the 3 charities last year. This year, as everyone knows, our chosen and moving forward charity position is the Kids Cancer Project. For that, I think we are absolutely, I'll say, privileged. And I would invite everyone here today to go to the website, look at the video, the Australian Story video, which tells us a lot about this gentleman here. Now, getting him to talk, I don't think is going to be the problem.
No, stop it.
That's why I'm here.
So we've got a timekeeper. What we have is, in my opinion, true inspiration. This is a gentleman who 26 years ago, this year I think,
yes,
drove past the children's hospital, I should say, at Camperdown, and was inspired. And in terms of what he saw, I won't talk about it at all. Col will talk about it a little bit. Col Reynolds obviously is the gentleman I'm talking about here, who was the inspiration behind the Kids Cancer Project. It started from him seeing that, and the inspiration I see is that we all wake up in the morning and think about, wow, how good it would be to make a difference. This is an example of someone who woke up and then has actually done it for 26 years. And what he's done it for is, I think, what is one of the most worthy causes that can possibly be on the planet, and that is to stamp out cancer and infant mortality, essentially. So it's childhood cancer or children's cancer and some of the toughest things. He's seen a lot of troubles along the way, maintained the inspiration, and I think over 25, 26 years donated more than, or raised, I should say, more than 27 million.
Committed 49 million.
Committed 49, I'm well off on that number then, aren't I? So 49, and that's nothing to be sneezed at all, and continues to go from strength to strength. This is what we're supporting. We're supporting someone who has done it tirelessly out of, I won't even say why, he'll tell us a little bit more about that, and has done it for an incredibly worthy cause and given so much. We want to be the same. The reference here is take this out to our community and speak to your customers, speak to our suppliers, speak to everyone we know, and get them involved in the activity that we're doing. We don't want 20,000, we want 20,000 as the minimum, and then to find our way further beyond that to be able to put it to the worthy cause, which I'll let Col now talk about. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. There's nothing better than doing something for children, because as parents, most probably, if you've got children of your own, the sweetest, purest and truest love you'll ever have in your life is that unconditional love given by your own child. It's priceless. You can't buy it, you earn that. And I've had the pleasure of getting so much love from little kids who are dying of cancer. And I can assure you that you can't pull the wool over a sick child. If they think you're a bit of a phony or a bit of a false person, they'll read you like a little book. And I've been to too many funerals, and this little boy here, Declan Kane, was the last one I went to, and I don't want to go to any more. A lot of parents say that when their child passes on, they become angels in the sky. I don't want them to become angels, I want them to live. And that's the reason of why I want to do things. I had a beautiful little girl who was very angelic. She was 6 years of age. She loved Jimmy Barnes. She sang on stage with the Tin Lids, his own children. Jimmy Barnes wrote a beautiful song, and it was sung at her funeral. She died before she was 7 in 1993 of acute myeloid leukemia. Funny thing about it, 7 years later, there was a boy called Alexander Willows from Devonport in Tasmania, who was 11, had acute myeloid leukemia, and he survived 7 years later. He's now a doctor. So, you know, like, some of these kids can be the most beautiful persons and most special. It's interesting to note that when you are not ill, you can achieve wonderful things, but when a child's gone through cancer and survives, there's no more negatives in front of them. They become the most positive person of all and become very successful as supervisors. A lot of them go into the medical field, whatever it may be. But really, what I did many years ago, I drove tourist coaches for 30 years, and I dropped passengers off at Parramatta, and I was driving empty down Parramatta Road to go to Alexandria, past the Camperdown region. And for why, I haven't the foggiest idea. I should have turned right up Misselton Road, and I didn't. I went left down Pyrmont Bridge Road. What the hell did I do that for when I'm going back to Alexandria? And I came across a pedestrian crossing with two little bald kids, and I stopped to allow them to cross the road. Now, the vehicle was empty. So I had plenty of time and I just watched them safely cross on the opposite side of the road to the footpath to go to a little shop where they most probably wanted to buy ice cream or lollies or whatever. Then I parked my vehicle around the corner and thought, God, I could do something about that. Here's the irony. If I had passengers on board, I would have stopped and allowed them to cross, but would have continued the journey into the city, dropped them off, or did an afternoon city sights tour. The other thing is they could have been further up the pedestrian footpath and not reached as yet the crossing, no need to stop. Or they could have actually started crossing the road and been on the opposite side, no need to stop. But I did, I stopped. Now, why I went there, I haven't the foggiest idea. Why I am still as passionate about doing this, I haven't the foggiest idea. I do know that if I don't do the right thing by these kids, I'm going to suffer the severest consequences. I'll end up with ingrown toenails, peptic ulcers, bad tooth, and I'll have flatulence like you would not believe. So I will do the right thing by these kids. But I have made a lot of promises over the years. I've been to too many funerals, and geez, I don't like doing that anymore. I've carried the coffins of little kids, you know, from the hearse into the chapel, back to the hearse and to the gravesite. It's horrifying. I don't want to do it anymore. This boy, I want the last kid I ever go to. I flew from Townsville to Perth, hopped in a hire car and drove to Bridgetown. By the time I got there, it was like 10 hours. Went to this little boy's funeral, looked down into the grave, 6 foot down to a little white coffin, and made a severe promise again. I consummated my promise that I wouldn't stop until I find a cure, because I don't want another kid to go through what he went through. These children are not here to hold me accountable, but I know I've made the promise and I'm going to keep the promise. And that's my strongest passion to do something. I did Kokoda with Owen Finegan when I was 77 with no cartilage and bone on bone, and I had a strap around it. I want to do it again. I've got a brand new titanium knee. It's going to last me till I'm 110, but I don't want to live that long. I want the cure before I kick the bucket. Stubborn bugger, won't die till I find a cure. And I'll find a cure because, you know, when you do research on children's tumours and tissues, you get a cleaner, faster result. All of us here today are contaminated by life. Your underarm deodorant, you know, I don't know whether you realise that, but it's all got aluminium, and unless you have there's 2 of them that you can buy that don't have aluminium in it. You don't cook in an aluminium fry pan. You either have Teflon or stainless steel. You don't want the issues, you know, fertilisers, pesticides. My God, when we go to Kokoda, we use Bushmans. You sometimes use Aerogard. You don't know what the hell you're spraying on yourself, so we're contaminated. When you do research on children's tumours and tissues, it's like buying fresh fish or meat and putting it on the kitchen table. If you put that in the freezer and leave it there for weeks or a month and pull it out again, that's what it's like doing research on an adult's tumours and tissue. You're not going to get the same result. Ethics and protocol in the world states that when you do research on children's tumours and tissues and illnesses, you've got to do all your trials on adults first. So whether you realise that or not, as adults, we get the benefit from all of the illnesses that scientists do research on children's problems. Adults get it first, then after adults, children get it. So it pays to support children's research. One of the hardest things is trying to get that through to people, and I do understand that you're adults. You know, if you're a woman, you may have breast cancer. If you're a man, you may have prostate cancer. You may have other illnesses. You've got responsibilities. You've got a mortgage. You've got kids going to school. Who's going to look after them? I understand that. And you've got to really, in a sense, look after you. That's number one. But kids really are the door that opens up for us to find better treatments because of their tumours and tissues and other problems are cleaner than yours and mine. We're not going to get anywhere by doing research on our stuff, and science proves that. So what I want to do, again, is I want to do Kokoda once more. You've got to have a reason. One of the problems we've got at the moment, there's bad droughts in West Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia. We can't go out there and fundraise. You can't ask people that are having a problem trying to fundraise when they cannot pay their mortgage, they haven't got enough money to put food on the table. In Queensland, in Townsville, a lot of the restaurants in Palmer Street have closed down. the one that is making more money out of all of them, the ones that are most successful, is Hungry Jack's, McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken, because it's cheaper. People are going for the cheaper food because they can't afford to go and dine out. They're all going broke. I can't go out there and expect them to do things, but what we want to do is to try and draw attention for this Kokoda trip, and hopefully through the media, etc., and other people, we can raise the money to support those scientists, because there's up and coming young people coming out of university that have got new inspiring ideas. You would know that yourself, you know, from where you have come from. There are some people that sit beside you and you think, God, how the heck did they learn that? I am dazzled by kids that now get on a telephone and they text with their thumb walking along, and it's like a typewriter. How the heck do they do that? Young people can be inspiring and they can come up with new ideas in research. Want to support those scientists, which we unfortunately have had to knock back. You've got to have a reason for someone to fundraise. Well, it's the science behind research that will lead to discoveries, because eating broccoli and spinach and, you know, Brussels sprouts is not going to cure cancer like some people think, you know, like get into the vegetables. Sorry, won't work. You've got to have science. So what I'd like to do is to use the fact that I'm 81 next year. I want to do Kokoda. Now, no Billy Goat's ever done it back to back. I'm going to be the first Billy Goat that's going to do Kokoda back to back, going from Owers Corner to Kokoda. That group fly out in an aeroplane, bring another bunch of poor devils back in again, and we're going to turn around and do it back to back. It's 96 kilometres one way, and it's up and it's down and up and down. How would it be? Well, if we put a ladder against here and you wanted to get up to the gutter to get the leaves out, that's what it's like sometimes going up, and that's what it's like when you're coming down. The funny part about it, you can be on a hill and you can look down and there's the river, and on the other side of it is a hill, and there's a clearing with an airstrip and there's some huts. And you say to the porter, God, is that where we're overnight? No, that's lunch. And you think, oh God. So it is exciting, but you learn a lot about yourself. It's the second biggest rainforest in Australia, and I'm prepared to do back to back. The oldest person in Australia to ever do Kokoda was 82 years of age. He was a Victorian and he's a beekeeper. Well, I'll be 81. I won't beat him, but I'll do that back to back. I'm not doing it for ego. There's no such thing as ego as far as I'm concerned. All I want is a cure. I want to find a cure for kids' cancer, because really that's all I want. You might say to yourself, all right then, Col Reynolds, what do you want out of this? Well, I've already got an Order of Australia. I didn't want the damn thing, but I took it in the year 2000 because it said it would open doors, and it has. I've been on Australia Story twice. There's only 3 people that have ever been on the thing twice. It's not about ego. I'm not interested in that. All I want is a cure. And what do you want out of this when it's all finally finished? I want to stand in front of the TV camera with a scientist, and I want to say to the thousands of people that are out there on the other side of their television set who have sadly lost their marriage because of the blame game between families. It's not on our side, it must be on her side. It's not on her side, it must be on his side. Got nothing to do with it. I want to say to those families that have lost so many children, with the scientists, we have found a cure and I've kept my promise. And then I want to walk away from the TV camera, because I don't want anything else. That's all I want. I want to keep my promise to the thousands of kids that I've said I will never stop until I find a cure. And that's my driving force. Little kids like this poor little fella that's no longer here to hold me accountable for my promise. But I want to make something out of it. And I think the only way I can do that, how many Billy Goats would ever want to do back-to-back Kokoda? No European's ever done that. But I'll do that, and I'll punish myself to raise awareness and raise funds so that we can fund those scientists to do something about opening a doorway and bring people out from the darkness and bring them out to the open and say, look, we're here. We've got some sort of treatment that wasn't there. Had a little girl who inspired me. She was not quite 7 when she died in 1993 of acute myeloid leukemia. There was no treatment, just nothing you could do, go home and die. Now, 7 years later, in 2000, a boy we brought over from Tasmania, Alexander Willows, was 11. He was as white as a sheep. I thought he was going to die. He survived his acute myeloid leukemia, and now he is Dr. Alexander Willows. Treatment is getting better only because of science. I've got to go because the boss is getting up. So what I want you to do, folks, is, you know, when you do this walking, you're going to walk on this. What I'm asking, can we make this a bit steeper? Higher and go down lower. Buddy pal, this is nothing compared to doing Kokoda, but it's really special that you're going to do it. And for that, I really appreciate it, because if we don't open up doorways, we're not going to get anywhere in life. And honestly, were you and I put on this planet just to think about me all the time? It's not about me. What can you do to help some other poor little bugger? What can you do to help some other... Would you drive past someone that's been in an accident and not get out of the car and help? Would you allow a house to burn down and not see if someone was inside? So helping me do what you're doing is beautiful. Now, here's 80 years of age, you know, like I'm not praying, I'm just going over here. Look, see, look. I'm just not getting there. You can do anything if you want to. Nothing's impossible. It just takes a little longer, but you can do it. And if I can do Kokoda back to back at 81, I'm sure you can be walking on here, you could do it and make a difference. And look, I want to thank you sincerely for doing it, and for your company for allowing you to be a part of it, because, you know, regardless, sorry, but you've now become a part of the family of the Kids Cancer Project. We're all making a difference. And how are you going to feel when we do open that doorway, we fund that scientist, and we have found a cure? Aren't you going to feel great that you walked this damn treadmill and you made a difference? Thank you so much, folks. I appreciate it.
For the Kids Cancer Project, we started Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, was done internationally, and we brought it to Australia about 5 years ago with the gold ribbon, and we've sort of moved away from having an awareness month, so we've started calling it, you know, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And this is a perfect fit, because we're actually asking people to step up. So the opportunity that you can, you know, you raise money, you've got your one company, 4 teams, 300,000 steps, a real goal and a real opportunity to do that. So we've got people across our community that help and support us. If I take that family, this family for example, who lost their child from the 1st of September till the 10th of September, they'll be riding scooters from Bridgetown to Perth. So the Col complaining about being in a car for 3 hours to get to the funeral is nothing for them, because for the last 3 years they've had 40 or 50 people that dress up, and their theme is super kids, superheroes. So they dress up in superhero outfits, and they take 10 days out of their year every year and raise $50,000 or $60,000 and scooter from Bridgetown to Perth. They end up at Perth Children's Hospital, give away some gifts to the kids that are in the hospital, but they're the sort of inspirations that have come out of Col's inspiration on wanting to make a difference. So we're, you know, whether it's 10 steps or 100 steps on this, participation with us and you engaging your clients and your wider Bromic family and introducing them to the Kids Cancer Project is just as effective for us. So we love to share the story of, you know, that more kids in Australia die of cancer than any other disease. So there's stats that aren't really well known, and the ability for you to not only fundraise for us, but the awareness that comes out of that, and the profile in September. So, you know, and hopefully at the back end of this, we'll be using Bromic as a case study for other organisations and what they can do to September to engage their staff and to engage their community and help us, you know, to help us make sure there is a cure. That challenge is, you know, and while we invest, you know, this year we've invested in June this year, we committed to another $10 million of future funding through our research projects. We've just committed $2.65 million to the brain cancer mission. So there's some long-term funding that we've committed to try and make sure that Col's dream is a reality. So the challenge is there isn't a one-size-fits-all. So whether, you know, some people have got brain cancer, some have got blood, some have got bone, some have got solid, and every one of them needed individual treatment. So, you know, I think there's about 8 or 9 different tumour types that we're researching, and we have got 30 research projects across every state in Australia and you know, and across 21 institutions. So we don't fund one hospital or one institution. We fund the bold, innovative science that's going to make a difference. So, thanks for welcoming us both out here. Taking a photo of that poster, because that's pretty much what we emulate. So we started off for 13 years. Col raised money to bring kids to the zoo or to the circus or on a day trip, and then one of those funerals, one of the oncologists that's still at Westmead, Luciana Della Posa, said to him, if you want to make a difference, don't bring the kids on a trip, start investing in some child cancer research, because that's what we need to make a difference. Col's been doing that for 15 years, and we have historically been a really community-based organisation. We've had over 1.5 million people that donate to our charity. So that's where the $40-odd million comes from, predominantly, is from individuals making a difference. So it's not, the great thing about this, it's not Bromic handing us money, it's a group of people getting hopefully inspired by the difference Col's made, and you can make a difference yourself, just individually by sharing what you're doing at work with your family or whatever that might be. So the awareness piece for us is just as important as whatever fundraising you're going to do, and hopefully it's enjoyable for you on the day too, and it brings a bit of hard work and a bit of sweat, hopefully, so it's not all enjoyment, but opportunity to come and share our story, and even what your support for last year did for us, and our ability to fund innovative bowl science is important. So thanks very much for the invite again to the whole team.
Any questions for Col?
Can I ask, what age group do you consider kids as, and how many kids are diagnosed every year?
Was 700 kids a year diagnosed with cancer. Now it's 900. So
What age group is?
So 0 to 18 is
Yeah.
about 950. We support sort of 0 to 24. Our remit's kids, 0 to 18, but one of our focuses is also AYA, which is adolescents and young adults. So some of our programs in that realm go through to 15 to 24-year-olds. So they're more the bone cancers that come on later, and some of the, we were sort of talking earlier, so the challenge is 50 years ago 2 in 10 kids were surviving. Now that survival rate is 8 in 10 kids, but if you speak to the people that look at late effects,
to give you